Theme number 7, coping with the emotional experience. The emotions stemming from organizational change may be due to the concept of the psychological contract or the unwritten rules between employer and employee. Elements within that contract may be intangibles, such as job commitment and a quality work environment, in addition to pay in return for work and vice versa. When a change occurs, especially one that feels unfair, the employee may see that as a breach of that contract. That feeling may lead to employee disengagement, decreased productivity, or even an employee choosing to leave the organization, even if they're not one of the employees that received a layoff notice. Any organizational change will cause various levels of stress. As a result, individuals may feel emotions such as shock, disbelief, guilt, anger, anxiety, uncertainty, or depression. If there are pre-existing personal issues, such as the illness of a close family member, an individual's emotions may be significantly amplified. These types of emotions are normal, and it is best to acknowledge them and identify healthy ways to minimize the stressors causing them. Wayne's story. It was 3 a.m. and Wayne was wide awake again, thinking about ways in which the organization he worked for could further reduce expenses. Wayne was a vice president at Damon Manufacturing, responsible for the production floor, which included several specialized machinists. The company's second largest contract was expiring at the end of the year, and the client recently decided not to renew with his company, as they were not the lowest bid. Competition in the industry was getting cutthroat, and it was not hard to believe another much larger manufacturing company could come in at a lower price. Damon Manufacturing was now in trouble, and there were only 10 months left to figure out what was next. With the manufacturing industry in the state it was now in, obtaining a large enough contract, or better yet, even small to mid-sized contracts to replace the one they were about to lose was an impossible task. Wayne and his leadership team met the next afternoon to begin discussing the reality of the situation. One thing the employees at the company did not know was that Wayne's wife, Catherine, was recently diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Wayne was one of those people who liked to keep his work and personal life separate, and this was no exception. Despite that, the emotions brought upon him by his wife's diagnosis and the upcoming loss of the large contract at Damon made him feel like life was giving him more than he could handle. A healthy outlet he used to handle the personal and professional stress was running. Thankfully, it was something he could do anywhere, whether he had to travel, use the hospital's fitness center while his wife was undergoing treatment, or in the early morning hours in the makeshift gym he had set up in his basement with a treadmill and a weight bench. While the stress was still there, running helped him to clear his mind, if only for the short distance until the next run. Reflection questions. What are alternatives to layoffs that organizations may consider? Is Wayne's separation of personal and professional matters a good stance? Why or why not? The ability of a person to maintain the level of stress that Wayne has is not sustainable for a long period of time. What or how might Wayne be able to further reduce his stress? Quote by Caroline Myss. The soul always knows what to do to heal itself. The challenge is to silence the mind. Tips and best practices for coping with the emotional experience. Number 1, show vulnerability. Time and again, I hear individuals tell me of their belief that managers are not concerned with what will happen to employees who are laid off from the organization, almost to the tone of the manager being greedy and out for their own good. Yes, there are some managers I have encountered or heard about through others who fall into that category. The interesting thing I have learned, though, is that there are a significant number of managers who do not fall into that category. Those managers care and are concerned for employees affected by layoffs. They may not be willing to show that vulnerable side, the side I have had an opportunity to learn more about through conversations and research. Rather than weakness, vulnerability reflects openness to uncertainty and letting others see you as you, not some facade you may feel you need to put on due to a role or situation. Showing vulnerability helps employees to see you as human and not just the boss. Number 2, find a healthy outlet for stress. In the story, Wayne had his running as an outlet and opportunity to clear his head. There are numerous healthy outlets to help in minimizing stress. It could be exercise, or watching your favorite movie, reading a book, hanging out with friends, playing with your kids at the park, or meditation. Think about those activities that would bring a smile to your face or let you feel as though the weight upon your shoulders is not so heavy, and engage in that. It doesn't have to be for hours, but it should be something where you can find a piece of relief among all the stress you are facing. Number 3, minimize interaction with negative people. Misery loves company. Do whatever is possible to not be that company. Believe me, the more you hang around with others with a negative outlook, the more likely you are to become negative too. Somehow, it always seems easier to fall into a negative mood during a difficult change, such as layoffs. I understand that positivity and someone losing their job doesn't align, but to not get pulled into the negative swirl of conversations, gossip, and rumors, you must remain somewhere in the middle.